Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Got a couple topics for you in this latest Moon Lambo hot jam. Starting with this one from the Crypto Basic. Ripple can now offer Ripple payments on-demand liquidity, formerly known as on-demand liquidity, services in US. So that's right. After XRP getting the shaft for years on end and Ripple shutting down on-demand liquidity corridors in the United States, which at the time of them getting shut down, those were the most liquid, most used on-demand liquidity corridors. They're coming back. Oh, they're coming back, baby. Which is what we expected. It's just been kind of a question of how is Ripple actually going to pull this off? Because it would be so absurd if Ripple could use XRP for on-demand liquidity in every other quarter on the damn planet, but then for any quarter touching the United States, what, no XRP? What does that mean? You have to use a different cryptocurrency? Is that even allowed? You know, which would be absurd. But it does look like this. Look like despite the messiness of this and the silliness of it, it looks like Ripple does seem to have a solution here. They've been fairly tight-lipped about this stuff, and understandably so. They're still in the remedies portion of the lawsuit with the SEC, even though they've won. And then they say, well, I say won. They have, broadly speaking, on the most important point, XRP itself, of course, is not a security. But then there's the question of appeal. And so check this out. Attorney John Deaton cites what he believes must happen if there is going to be a settlement between the SEC and Ripple. Now, outside of this particular thing happening, Deaton says, no, there will not be a settlement, and he predicts Ripple, from this point forward, will likely have to spend, even from this point, tens of millions of dollars in legal fees just to get a resolution in this case. So there's still a fight to be had. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so into this first piece, and I don't really need to read the entirety of this article. I want to hit on the high points here, though. There was this post, which I actually did share at the time. It's from David Schwartz, Ripple CTO, co-creator of XRP and the XRP Ledger, July 14th of this year. So that's one day after XRP Victory Day, when Judge Torres declared that XRP itself is not a security. So despite the fantastic news, Ripple, this is early days of figuring out what the aftermath is going to be for Ripple specifically, and positioning XRP as a bridge currency in what was then known as on-demand liquidity. And so David Schwartz on July 14th wrote the following: "We're still figuring this out. We don't currently have ODL-related sales with a U.S. nexus, and not being able to do so is not really a huge deal. We can still do ODL in the U.S. so long as XRP is never sourced from Ripple." And so there's a partnership, and this news broke the other day, the Ripple Uphold partnership. And I'm a fan of Uphold. I've been using them since, I believe, summer of 2018. And it's actually the case that whatever the first day was, I can actually figure this out by looking at my history anyway, but whatever the first day was where Uphold allowed the transfer of XRP off their platform, that's the first day that I ever purchased XRP on their platform. But anyway, so this piece reads as follows. "Recall that Ripple recently inked a strategic partnership with Uphold, as the Crypto Basic reported yesterday. According to the announcement, the partnership would see Ripple utilize Uphold's trading infrastructure, which boasts 30 trading venues, to bolster its cross-border payment service. Though reports of the partnership triggered moderate excitement in the XRP community, several community members failed to understand the gravity of its implications. The latest comments aim to highlight how pivotal the strategic partnership could be. Notably, the Ripple payment service, formerly ODL, is not live in the US, despite Ripple offering these services to over 55 countries with a payout network spanning 70 markets." Let me go just a little bit later, so we further down the article, because I don't need to read the whole thing. Belabor the point. Here's what I want. A solution to the dilemma. So check this out. They reference one of my fellow XP YouTubers, Digital Assets Daily, who was talking about this topic. The latest comment from the host of Digital Assets Daily emphasizes that Ripple now seeks to use Uphold as an avenue to source XRP for ODL sales in the US. By using this technique, the company would avoid any potential regulatory action for the US-based ODL sales. Now, folks, what's interesting about this to me is Ripple already had exchange partners in place. Specifically, Bitstamp, which was the primary primary exchange that they were using as a partner for corridors in the United States. And they also were partnered up with Bittrex, which is no longer in the United States. I'm sure you guys are aware the SEC pushed them out of existence in the United States anyway. So presumably you could do this with whatever exchange you're partnered with. There's a reason that they're doing what they're doing, and I haven't seen any sort of public indication as to why. But that's the case. Look, Ripple doesn't owe us anything, and so we can only look at outward-facing facts at times and then speculate about it here. We're not going to see how the sausage is made very frequently. But there's a reason they're doing what they're doing. So there's this new partnership. I don't know if that means that there's something shaky with Bitstamp. I'm not even going to speculate that, honestly. I'm just saying technically that's a possibility. I don't suppose that's necessarily the case, though. It could be the case that they're just expanding and opening more doors, which you would expect them to do, frankly, because as I've said, and I haven't brought this point up in a long time, but you would expect that any exchange on the planet that offers XRP as a trading service would want to pair up with Ripple. You think they'd want to partner with Ripple offering XRP as a bridge currency. Because why wouldn't they? All that means is more volume for their platform, and then they get their cut in terms of trading fees. So why wouldn't they want that? So I would expect more and more exchanges to come on board. Now, in this case, you're talking about one of the most reputable exchanges in the United States, which is Uphold. Just major mover for XRP. That's a huge core of their business at this point. Because as you well know, they continue to offer XRP. They're the only United States-based firm that offered XRP during the 2.5 years where XRP was under attack from the SEC. So they have a huge business in terms of offering XRP to their customers. They have a loyal client base as a result of this, and deservedly so, because they did what they did. They had the guts to do what was right, and they followed through. And so good on them. I'm a big fan of Uphold. But all that to say, I'm just still you're going to want to partner with those firms that make the most sense. And with Uphold having the volume that they do with XRP, and them sourcing it not from Ripple, it seems to make sense. So Ripple could link up with them, and with the massive liquidity, I just think from a strategic point, it just seems like a no-brainer here. And so my fellow XRP YouTuber James Rule XRP wrote to Uphold and said, "Congratulations regarding the partnership. Are XRP on the platform going to enhance the liquidity?" And the Uphold account responded, "Hi James, and thanks. We never leverage customer funds. We will, however, be using our expertise in sourcing both fiat and crypto, XRP included, on the open market in order to facilitate the near instantaneous transfer of money across borders via Ripple ODL." So, a couple things, and one thing I haven't seen anybody else cite on. If you listen to exactly how that's worded, they're saying that they're going to use other cryptocurrencies, not just XRP, for Ripple's ODL, although it's not known as ODL anymore. It was rebranded. But they're talking about using, because again, let me read it one more time. "We will, however, be using our expertise in sourcing both fiat and crypto, XRP included, on the open market in order to facilitate the near instantaneous transfer of money across borders via Ripple ODL." So why would they say crypto, and then in parentheses write XRP is included in that? Why wouldn't it just be XRP when Ripple's only using XRP as a bridge currency? Well, with a lot of question marks as to how the legal happenings, the SEC v. Ripple case, we don't know exactly how that's going to impact the United States corridors for Ripple. It's not surprising to think that maybe they would consider using another crypto, because they've talked about this in the past. Brad Garlinghouse, before the lawsuit even started, Brad Garlinghouse said, "Well, we've never done it, but it's certainly something that could happen in the future." And so if there's a reason for this, legal or otherwise, then it could happen. And he had also cited another reason it could happen is if there was a corridor where there was insufficient liquidity with XRP, then that door would be open. Now, with a corridor touching the United States and where they're targeting at this point in time, not likely to be finding a corridor where XRP isn't liquid, so it would probably be due to legal concerns should that be the case. But look at how they worded that. Either that or they really sloppily worded this, So I don't know. It's one or the other here. But anyway, it's cool. Like, either way, like I've said for months on it, like there's a path forward here. Even though Ripple is found to have infringed with certain institutional level transactions. Now let's shift gears slightly. I want to share with you perspective first from attorney Bill Morgan and then from attorney John Deaton. And this has to do with what's going down in the case now. Now, obviously, XRP has legal clarity, but are we going to see settlement? Well, attorney Bill Morgan doesn't think that's what's happening right now. And so he said the following: "It will heat up, not settle. The remedies phase in the SEC v. Ripple matter will be full on. I was refreshing my memory from the letters the parties sent to the court about the SEC's intention to pursue the ultimately doomed motion for permission to file an interlocutory appeal. According to the SEC in its letter, the remedies phase of the proceedings promised to be protracted and heavily litigated with additional fact and expert discovery. Ripple, in its letter, elaborated on what is to come. Number one, further fact development on which Ripple offers and sales qualify as institutional sales. I assume that not all sales the SEC asserted were institutional sales were in fact institutional sales. And number two, whether the SEC has jurisdiction over institutional sales transactions. Many did not touch the USA, says Ripple. The court has not yet ruled on this issue. And number three, whether post-complaint sales of XRP to sophisticated commercial counterparties were violative of securities laws. This last issue is incredibly important and obviously highly contentious, as most of the post-complaint sales were to ODL customers for cross-border payments. The amount at stake for such sales is very large and more than the amount for institutional sales referred to in the SEC complaint. These are sales that most clearly do not seem to be investment contracts because the ODL customers do not invest in XRP and don't expect profits from investing in it. It was an undisputed fact between the parties that ODL transactions take seconds to complete. How do you get a settlement out of all that? Is it as simple as Ripple just writing a check? I don't think so at this time. Right, and so look, I'd love to just see this whole thing wrapped up so that way we can just freaking stop talking about it. But many attorneys think that what's most probable here actually is you're going to see just the tremendous fight continue. And the SEC's already lost what matters, but they're not going to stop being punk-ass bitches. They're not going to stop because they're punk-ass bitches. They're punk-ass bitches. That's all they are. Well, no, that's not true. That's not all they are. They're also asshat bricks. So they're punk-ass bitches, they're asshat bricks. They're demons. They're like little spawns of Satan, winged creatures from the depths of hell. These are disgusting humans. You think that they're actually going to stop engaging in the shenanigans that they've been engaging in for all of these years? Because I don't think that they're just going to give up that easily. I mean, I'm persuaded by recent arguments I've seen from attorneys. In this, I'd love to see settlement, and maybe the attorneys that say settlement is probable at this point, maybe they're right. I'm kind of skeptical because what has changed? Because look, we may have hit this point, and I do believe this is true, where you can see that the tide has turned effectively, but it doesn't mean the battles are all over. They're still fighting just as hard at the battles that are remaining. They're just not. I just don't think they're going to be taking on as many new battles, with the same tactics that they've been using in the past. That's what it looks like to me. But we still have to fight the crap that's here. They're not just going to stop on that front. And also, they should be incredibly embarrassed. I mean, I'm not convinced that they necessarily have shame because they're not even humans. But they should be. They want to prevent any possible further embarrassment. And so if they just drop this whole thing and there's some sort of settlement that didn't allow them to save face, they just won't do it anyway. Here's what Attorney John Deaton had to say. As I said on Crypto Law TV yesterday with Attorney Jeremy Hogan and Ten Vu, that's his wife, of course, I do not believe there has been a single serious conversation regarding settlement between Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, and the SEC. The SEC is pissed and embarrassed and wants $770 million worth of flesh. What people need to understand is that the penalty phase is like a second case requiring more depositions, interrogatories, requests for production of documents, emails, bank statements, contracts, ODL transactions, etc. So folks, think about that. It does sound like a whole separate case, doesn't it? My God. And it's just a phase of the same case, but still, it seems like it, right? Then he says, Ripple wants to drastically reduce the $770 million by trying to exclude ODL transactions, reduce salaries, expenses, costs, etc. The SEC sought $23 million from Library. It took 8 months of additional litigation before the judge ultimately issued a fine of $130,000. Jeremy Kauffman, the founder, was deposed again, for example. Multiple briefs were filed. I don't expect a final judgment issued by Judge Torres until late summer at the earliest. So folks, we're already talking about this thing dragging into next year. Thank thank our lucky stars, at least the clarity for XRP has come down. But my God, this just never ends. Then he says, it literally could take a full year before an appeal is filed in this case. If Coinbase wins their motion to dismiss, I then believe the SEC will be forced to pivot its anti-crypto agenda and then work out a possible settlement with Ripple. If Coinbase loses its motion to dismiss, I predict no settlement. January 17th, 2024 is the oral argument on the Coinbase motion. A ruling is likely 60 to 120 days later. Until then, I think Ripple will spend tens of millions of dollars in legal fees fighting to greatly reduce the $770 million. And so there you go, my friends. What would it take for Ripple to ultimately settle? Well, attorney John Deaton, this is what I was talking about at the outset of the video. This is what would have to happen for attorney Deaton to think, yep, it's more probable that there would be a settlement. You need Coinbase to win their motion to dismiss. And I don't know what the probability of that is. I mean, to me, that seems like what would be right because the SEC is grossly overreached. But, you know, the way legal systems work, I'm not an attorney. I don't know the probability of that. I'm kind of skeptical of that. But if it happened, that would be fantastic. And it could happen. It could happen, certainly. Well, at that point, the writing is extra on the wall at that point. You know? Because Ripple will be able to point to this and be like, Judge Torres, hey, look at this. And so maybe they would finally settle at that point. But outside of that, Attorney Deaton doesn't think that's going to happen. And so he thinks that what's most likely is Ripple still has tens of millions of dollars in legal fees to spend to reduce, which makes sense. You might think that's an outrageous amount of money. But if you're talking about reducing the $770 million that potentially they owe, well, it's well worth it at that point. So this is the most absurd nonsense, my God. Like we actually have lived through this. This is one of those periods of my life like I will never forget, and I will remember certain things in particular detail. You know, because it's been so impactful, certainly to me, and I'm willing to bet the vast majority, if not everybody listening to this. And so much was at stake because if this didn't go the right way, we could have just gotten absolutely financially wrecked. We could have, but that's not what has happened. And there's so much opportunity because justice has been done to this point. It absolutely has been. It's been messy. We shouldn't have had to go through it, but it has been done to this point. So I'll just say it's left a lasting impact on me, and I'm willing to bet that pretty much the same for everybody that's in the community and an XRP holder. So we'll keep tracking this stuff here. But again, the most important parts, it's already come down. It's nice. We can rest easy on that point, at least. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.